Many knife lovers and sharpening freaks would like to be able to measure the sharpness of their blades and express it in form of a number. Like this, sharpness becomes to the objective size and you can compare the sharpness of different knives with each other. The Edge On Up Sharpness Measuring System is the only device I know which you can do that quick and easy. In the last years, this system has established itself in the knife scene. On the Edge On Up system, a digital scale measures how many grams of force you require to cut through a certified test wire. This certified test wire is a synthetic polymer wire which looks and feels to me like a normal fishing line. In this video I will find out if I am able to determine the sharpness value of a blade with this fishing line and the kitchen scale, or if I have to buy an Edge On Up sharpening measure system. Hello YouTube! Welcome to another Swiss Army knife workshop video. In this series I show you maintenance and customization tricks for your Swiss Army knife. If you want to describe how sharp your knife is, you can say it cuts through paper, or it stops in the hair or on the fingernail, or it shaves hair on the skin, or even it splits a hair. This information gives you a rough idea how sharp a knife can be. But this is the same as someone asks you the time and you say it's afternoon. In this video I would like to show you a measuring system with which knife lovers, sharpening junkies and knife collectors can determine the sharpness of a blade easy, quick and accurate. And yes, there are international ISO standards to measure the cutting performance and the edge retention of blades. In this test method, the knife cuts through a stack of paper. Then the cutting depth is measured. These machines are called Catra tester. However, this method is not suitable for private knife lovers who want to test the sharpness of their knives. These machines are too big, too expensive and too complicated. But the Edge On Up system works different. It's much easier, much more low-tech. On this system you have to attach a certified test wire to a jig. The digital scale under the jig measures how much force you require to cut through the wire. The result in grams is 1:1 the value on the BESS scale. So the sharpness of knives is measured in BESS, B-E-S-S. And this BESS scale is also an international standard. On this paper, which is published from Edge On Up, they show a rough classification of different types of knives on a scale. At the beginning of my idea to measure this BESS value with a kitchen scale and the Fisher line, these measurements helped me a lot to find out if I'm totally on the wrong track or not. So this measurement value gave me a good orientation. They say a double-edged razor blade needs 40 to 60 grams to cut through the test wire. A utility razor blade like this needs 150 to 200 grams to cut through the test wire. And a cutlery knife like this needs 250 to 315 grams to cut through the test wire. If your knife needs more than 400 grams to cut through the wire, you have to sharpen it. I really like the simplicity of this method to determine the sharpness of a certain point of a cutting edge. But please keep in mind that these values just have, I would say, a limited significance, because this value says nothing about the edge retention. This value says nothing about the cutting performance, or a little bit something about the cutting performance. And you have to know that this value is easy to influence. The tension of the test wire, for example, has a big impact. The speed at which you push the knife down has a big impact. All angles how you hold the knife has an influence. And keep in mind, after a measurement, you have only a selective feedback from a certain spot. and not from the whole cutting edge. That's why, in my opinion, you have to make always several measurements on the cutting edge, because this average gives you a better feedback from the cutting edge. And you will see that it's absolutely normal that you have a certain percentage deviation. And sometimes you will even have a runaway, a total different measuring result. And again, this is the reason why it's important to make several measurements, and like this you can also recognize strongly dividing results. And as I already said, I like the simplicity of this test method because this is not rocket science. And I like also that you get a number as result and not a subjective feeling like on a paper test. Oh, this cut well. This says nothing. So now I would say let's do some comparison measurements between the edge and up and my kitchen scale and 0.3 millimeter fishing line as test wire. And by the way, the wire holder I made in 10 minutes from a piece of branch with a diameter about 40 millimeters. I made a 10 millimeter wide slot with the bandsaw and I took 2 screws to clamp the line. So I will test a double-edged razor blade, a utility razor blade, a Swiss Army knife and a Victorinox Santoku knife. On every knife I made a mark on the cutting edge. And I will take 4 measurements from this spot on each scale. Let's go. Now we go straight to the question, can a kitchen scale and a fishing line replace the edge and up system? The answer is clearly no, it doesn't work. Because if you really want to know the real best score of your knife, you have to use the certifier test wire, and you have to use the certified scale from edge and up. Otherwise, you don't have a best score. And regarding the user friendliness, the big disadvantage from the kitchen scale is that he don't stop at the highest pressure point. And this is really annoying. So you have to be really quick and really concentrated that you can read the right value. But, my friends, if you don't have 300 bucks to buy an edge and up system, and if it's enough for you that you get a good idea where your knife would be on the BESS scale, the system with the fishing line and the kitchen scale works perfect. So at the end of this test, I had 60 measurements on the kitchen scale and 16 measurements on the edge and up scale. And I added up these values, and on the kitchen scale I had all in all 2,312 grams, and on the edge and up I had 2,305 grams. So this is only 7 grams difference. And I was not sure if this just was a coincidence, or so I made the same again. And on the second time I had only 44 grams difference. So it seems that this method with the fishing line and the kitchen scale comes pretty close. So my friends, I hope this test was interesting for you. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and see you next Friday. Ciao!